Hello and welcome to today's episode of Dream Business, Dream Life. Now, today I'm joined by Madeleine Cordes, who is the founder of Maddie for Music. Maddie is passionate about sharing her expertise in the community to help develop confidence and skills through music making. Hi, Maddie. Thank you for joining me. How are you today?
Hi, Emma. Really well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Okay, let's do what I love to do on this podcast. Take us back to it was 2010, I think, wasn't it, that you started Maddie for Music? What inspired you to start it?
It was one of those eureka moments, really. I was living and working abroad in the Cayman Islands, actually, in my business career as a governance professional, company secretary. And just because I wanted to, I put on summer holiday workshops for our own sons and my friends and their children. Because they were having lessons, clarinet, piano, etc., singing, and I've always enjoyed amateur music making and helping them with their practice and things. So, um, what happened? The eureka moment was when one of the mums said to me, "You really should be a music teacher." And that obviously stayed with me, that comment. And when we returned from the Cayman Islands back to Kent, I decided to retrain as a music teacher. It wasn't going to be a case of swapping completely out of my business career because I have always been the main breadwinner, so I couldn't afford to, give up the big job and pay the mortgage, etc. at that time. But I was able to negotiate to work part time and to develop the business alongside.
Which is amazing. Back then, what were you hoping that Maddie for Music would become? What were you hoping it would turn into?
I think I was open to various things, but what really spurred me on was that in the area where we live in East Kent, there are some very deprived areas, sort of ex-mining towns. Dover itself is quite impoverished in different parts. And at the time, I think my family were involved in amateur dramatics and things, and I was aware that there was no real opportunity for young people who perhaps couldn't afford less singing lessons or sign up to expensive courses and things like that to sing together. So I think the first thing coming out of the music access course, which I did to retrain for the next year, was to set up a youth choir and take them to exciting places to perform, which they wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to do.
Which is amazing, isn't it? It's very clear that music to you is so much more than just teaching people how to perform music, whether that's singing or you do piano and violin, don't you, as well? And there's probably other
Yes.
things that you do along there. So when did you realize that it was more than just teaching, that music was more about supporting, I suppose, your well-being and your confidence, isn't it? It was what I'm hearing from you. When did you realize that it was more than just teaching, that it was there to support all of these other things as well?
Yeah, I found that I was just uncovering opportunities to help people develop confidence through music. So they might be, wanting to, I don't know, improve their skills or even their work job opportunities. I think it was really when um, I realised the effect that I could have on people and the difference I could make. So someone might say, "Oh, I've always wanted to," for instance, and that would be a trigger for me. That, "Oh, I'd always wanted to do a solo on stage," and I get that even now, and that immediately excites me because I know I've got the tools and the experience and the passion for making that happen. So I've just finished a lesson before this podcast with one of my adult students. He's in his 60s, runs his own business, and he's sung karaoke for many years, but he's always wanted to learn a bit about technique. So that was, I think, go back to your question, what made me think, well, actually, I've got skills from the rest of my life, my business life, and bringing up children, and to be able to sort of mentor and coach, but through music, and to get people on going on a journey, on their own personal journey, whether that's a child, just where a mum said, "Oh, my daughter really loves to sing. Can you help?" To an older person who perhaps has been told they can't sing or has never sung.
Yeah, yeah, and it's clearly a passion project for you as well as a business, which I absolutely
Definitely.
love. I adore that.
Mm.
I think when we are so passionate about something, it not only somehow makes it easier to build the business. And when I use that word easy, I use that lightly because business building is not easy. That is that is not, but it makes it feel easier because you've got, it's your purpose, isn't it? You're following that passion
Yeah,
and everything else. But actually, I think it comes across to the people that you are connecting with and the people that you are trying to bring into your world as well, that they can see how passionate you are about it. Have you always
yes.
sang, Maddie? Is that something you've always done? Have you always been musical?
Yeah, I've always been musical, and I have to thank Mum for really making me stick to it when I was a kid because I was very lucky, unlike some people, to have the opportunity to learn instruments and have private lessons. It's very, very expensive, I know from our own sons, and she helped me with my practice, at home and made sure I did the exams. And at the time, I was, oh, Mum, I really don't want to do it. And I actually gave up the violin age 15 and the piano 16 and went back to it all much, much later, But singing I've always done. I didn't actually train as a singer. I did the violin and piano, but I've always sung. And in my 20s, when I was working in a bank, I joined the Royal Choral Society in London as a social outlet to meet new people. And I was, working in London at the time. It was very convenient. So I've always sung since then in choirs of different sizes and types. But it was only in 2010 that I started sort of having training myself to be able to teach, both for myself and to teach singing, and taking that more seriously as part of the business.
Yeah, which is amazing. So I said at the very beginning when I introduced you about this passion for you to bring music into the community. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what that looks like?
Yes, over the for a number of years that I've been doing this, um, I've found lots of different channels and avenues, and I'm a bit of a networker because in my business career I've done a lot of business development. So unlike some musicians who struggle to talk about money or to network or get themselves out there, I enjoy that and I'm quite good at it. So whenever I meet someone new, I'm in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, even when I went to a tennis class, tennis in care homes came out of it, so there are a number of channels, but so I suppose the main ones are care home entertainment, which has developed over the time I've been running the business from my husband going in occasionally to now having 15 different acts, singers and other acts, going into about 15 homes where I've developed strong relationships, and they now don't just book ad hoc. They're part of a little network of activity organisers. They even talk to each other, and they say, "Oh, you've got a shanty man, or I want to try. You've had him in. What does he like?" and things. So I've built a little community there. So that's one of the biggest areas, I suppose. And then the other biggest areas, my community choir, which I've been running almost as long as I've set up Maddie for Music, nearly 14 years now. We've all got a bit older, so I was about 45, I think, at the time. And most people in the choir were in their 50s and 60s. So we're all getting older, but we stayed together. There are about 25 of us, and I've taken the choir to many exciting events and given them opportunities to develop confidence and get to know each other, really. So they've got a community of friends there now.
And that is so important in life, isn't it? In terms of keeping yourself happy, content, and actually giving you sometimes a reason to get up in the morning, isn't it? Because sometimes we just need that thing to actually motivate us to do whatever we need to do.
Mm,
My mother-in-law was in a care home before
yeah.
we lost her with dementia, which I know we'll talk about that because I know you've got your connections in there as
Mm,
well. And I remember we went to, they had, it was like a summer fair, where they had, things going on and
yeah.
various things, happening. And, my mother-in-law wasn't always very that's a big word, isn't it? Communicative.
Yeah.
She didn't always have a lot to say towards the end and, didn't always, recognize who we were or what we were there for, felt, what it's like with dementia. Lots of things that weren't reality were her reality. And it was very,
Yes.
sad to see. But when that music kicked in at that summer fair, it was almost like it took her right back in time to when she remembered her whole different life. She remembered there was a song that she used to absolutely
Mm,
love. And all of a sudden, she remembered what that song was well enough to be able to grab her walking frame, totter over to the people who were singing and saying, "Can you sing this song?" Now it wasn't perfectly articulated, but they knew what she was, they knew
Yeah.
what she was trying to get out, and it was so beautiful to see. And that was the power of music in that room, that triggered something that we were able to sort of see glimpses of the old Barb.
Oh, that was lovely, wasn't it? Yeah, I
Absolutely
understand that
beautiful.
that part of the brain that remembers music and songs and is the last to sort of decline. So that means that if you can tap into that part of the brain with somebody with dementia, then that's as you say, good for them and good for the relatives as well, because they do get to see the person they knew, and it also encourages them to express themselves, those residents, because sometimes activities people will say to me, organisers will say, oh, we don't want any sad songs, but actually, and that tends to be those that are not experienced in dementia, because actually having a cry for a short time, obviously not to be completely distressed, but is actually very good, because that to communicate and remember, reminisce and remember good times, it's all part of the human condition, and keeping that inside is not healthy for you. So if it's a short period to actually be sad, and or maybe just have a little cry, and also to have people around you that are supporting you while you do that, the staff or the singers themselves, is a really good thing. So yeah, and I mean, one story I've got in a care home particularly is that most recently part of my new offering of different acts is a tap dancing group, and I've joined this tap dancing group. So of course, opportunities. Oh, I said, oh, why don't we go into a care home? And there was a particular moment, it was a few months ago, where one lady remembered that she did used to tap in seeing the demonstration from the tap group in the home, and we were able to get her up and have a little go and put the hat on and use the cane and that sort of thing, and you could tell, and the residents and the staff all commented about it, how she was remembering the times when she did used to be able to tap, and it was just bringing her real joy.
Yeah, which is amazing, isn't it? You must sit and look at your business and think, how fortunate you are to be able to give people that joy, which I think is
Yeah.
absolutely wonderful. And you've received some recognition for that, haven't you? Because you've done so much for your community. So tell us a little bit about your recognition.
Well, over the years, I've had a couple of rewards from Mind and from our local town council for community work, because as well as I was saying about the benefits of the choir to themselves, but we go into the community and gig a lot, whether it's for charity or just local community events. So the council event came from that, and it's lots of different audiences that we're touching and hopefully bringing joy to. And then most recently, we've been nominated for a couple of different categories in the Kent Dementia Awards, which I think will be in May. And I think Barbara, from East End, as her husband, is going to be presenting those. I'm hoping that we get a chance to be at the event. But it's all about local dementia initiatives, and I felt that, and others did, that what we do in care homes in East Kent was valuable. And what I forgot to do, I think, in the going forward, not being very business minded, is to actually ask people what they think about Maddie for Music. And by being nominated, I was amazed and blown over by the lovely testimonials that I received from the regular homes that we go into. And then I was able to share that with the singers and the other acts as well, and they were delighted because some of them were named personally as to the impact they've made in the homes they've gone into for Maddie for Music. Those sort of stories, like the tap dancer one, we may not have known about that if I hadn't have asked, because normally I get, oh, it was great, or so and so was good, or thanks, send your invoice, and we just day to day life and we just get on. But stepping back there and thinking about it and then asking for the testimonials meant that we were able to actually understand much more about the impact we're having in the community. And so fingers crossed, not quite sure when we get to here, but I'm hoping that at least we'll be commended or something, and have our work recognised.
Absolutely. And I think with awards, just the fact that you've been nominated is a huge thing to celebrate in itself, isn't it? And obviously, I hope
Yes,
you I hope you go on to win the award because you're definitely very deserving in my eyes. But that
thank
recognition, for you personally, as the owner of Maddie for
you.
Music, but as you say, for the people that you are helping and supporting, for the people who are in your choirs and that sort of thing, and going in there, it's sometimes it's we need a bit of recognition, don't we? Sometimes we need to hear that for us to realize how much impact we are actually having on people.
I think so, and it makes all the work worthwhile because so much of the work I do is unseen to the community, and the dross, the sort of admin and the organisation and the herding cats and all that sort of thing, and following up invoicing. So I was really surprised and hadn't really looked for it that people said in the care homes things like, "Oh, Maddie is so relatable and bubbly, and she's really easy to deal with." I hadn't asked anything about myself personally, but my head got a bit big, thinking, oh, well, but I didn't really think of myself in that way. I think of myself as a facilitator, and I know I've got the skills. I'm a bit too logical and non-emotional at times, because I'm a businesswoman, and I've had this sort of corporate background. So yeah, taking the time to actually take that in and realise that what I'm doing is so worthwhile for people. And I wanted to give you one more story that's come to my mind about the care homes and the impact of that, which will have been shared for the awards nomination, which was you mentioned about your mother-in-law and how music, you were able to sort of unlock something through music. And one of the most special things that happened was when my husband went into a brain injuries charity that had an activity morning every week. It's called Headway in Folkestone, and he discovered that everyone there had various head injuries, and many people hadn't spoken for weeks. And it was about their rehabilitation, going to a day centre, hoping that they might be able to speak in time. And he ended up singing "You'll Never Walk Alone," and without realising, this particular gentleman, I'm not quite sure how they found out that he was a Liverpool supporter, and he fully sang the song. He still couldn't speak words, but he joined in because, like you were saying, it had unlocked a part of his brain that was able to allow him to do that, even though the rest, other parts were damaged. And that's got to be one of the best stories, because Gary came away, absolutely uplifted, thinking, and the residents were, sorry, the staff were crying and everything, because they hadn't heard him say a word. They'd never heard him speak. So he only came to them not speaking. I hope that he was able to speak in due course, but it was a lovely moment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And moments like that really tug on the heartstrings, don't they? They really do tug on the heartstrings. Um, so is there a moment perhaps in your story that sort of really captures why your work is so important to you? Is there something that in your journey that's made you so passionate about doing this and helping these people?
I think it's the two things really. The not having access like I did, so I felt really privileged, and at the time I didn't. I took it for granted, and having all the music training. So I feel that I've got an obligation to share that expertise, not in a condescending way, but just in a way that if I see people that would benefit, obviously they need to want to do it as well. But so I think that's one thing that I feel is a way of me giving back. I get pleasure from it as well. It's not all one-sided. And the other thing is, and my own teacher, Julie Bale, who I know you know, and in the last year I've been on her vocal diva training program to focus on my own singing voice, solo singing voice. But she is certainly aligned with me on this, that so many people have been told that they can't sing, that they've been silenced. And I have a lot of people come to me, whether it's, at the moment I've got a teenager, she was told at school, female teenager, that your singing's terrible. So she completely stopped for about 7 or 8 years, and her parents have been really upset about it. But she's come to me, and in the last 6 months, she's opened up, and we've developed a really good relationship. And she was able to sing at school on her leaving thing. She was telling me, and she was saying, oh, to herself, these people were in the room that had told her she couldn't sing. And she was, oh, well, I'm walking away now, and I know that, you're going to be thinking about what you said, or So I think that's what drives me as well, because I don't like the thought that somebody feels they have been silenced by anyone if it's something they want to do. And then I had another older gentleman said, I'm in a play. He was an actor, amateur actor, but he said, I've got to sing a line. And I was told I can't sing. I was told to mime in the church choir or the school choir. And it's so soul destroying that, that's what happened in the past, and it probably still is happening today. And he then went on. He did, obviously, I went to the play. He did really well. He sang the line, and then he's auditioned for a musical theatre society and took a lead role in the future, which I could see. So I could see the impact of my work in real, on the stage. So they're the two things that I think drive me to do it.
Amazing, amazing. So just listening to that, I feel like I've got a face ache already because I've smiled so much through listening to your stories and the people that you've helped and supported. It's very, very clear how Maddie for Music and obviously you are impacting other people's lives, other people's lifestyles, in some of the darkest moments of the life for some of these people. How would you say that Maddie for Music has supported the life that you want to live?
That's interesting because again, you don't think so much about
No,
yourself when you're giving, do you?
exactly.
I think it's really tapped into another part of me because I hinted at it earlier that my family see me as the big businesswoman, and I've had the big career. I've managed big teams of 50 people across different jurisdictions, so they see me in a certain way. And but it's allowed me, I think, to be much more creative, and a lot of the skills are transferable into the music business. But I've been able to be more playful, to have fun, to make more friends, through having this other life alongside the corporate business life. It is still a business, and I'm still very much treating it as a business. I'm not doing it as a charitable endeavour. Obviously, we do give to charity on occasion as part of our outreach, but I do look at the numbers and make sure that it's working, and I'm not devalued. So so yeah, I think it's been a great balance alongside the business career, corporate career, to have this smaller music business, which is thriving, and I feel I'm making a difference. It helps me personally, my own well-being, because when I'm thinking about the well-being of my singers, I'm also, doing training myself that allows me to feel good and find different experiences that will give not just my singers but me a lift and feel good about myself.
And that's important to do that, isn't it? To think about our own well-being as well as the well-being of the people that we are helping and supporting. Because if we aren't in the right headspace and we're not firing from all cylinders and all of that type of stuff, we're not delivering our best, are we? So I think it's really
Yeah.
important that you do that. You actually see what you do as helping your well-being as well.
Mm.
I think that's really, really important to do.
Just add
So
something on that, because I did find that whilst when I was working full time for 42 years in the employed work, um, that and I've been a year in now from having stopped doing that. So I'm working as a freelance consultant alongside the music business now. Um, I found that I have neglected myself, especially in terms of exercise and eating more healthily and things. And I was so driven by all the goals and deadlines and things in the business career that I had, and I've loved it. But now I'm able to sit back a little bit and think, well, how do I get a better balance? And my word for this year is definitely balance, so that I've got time for my family as well, and time for myself as well as doing my various business activities.
yeah, and that is definitely a challenge for most business owners at some point, isn't it?
Of course.
Getting that balance bit right. All in on one or the other. Finding that balance is where it becomes the dream, isn't it? That's absolutely where you get to be. So your business is clearly being built from your purpose, from your passion, from your mission, from the thing that you
Yeah.
want to achieve, both personally and obviously for the people that you're helping. What would you say that your biggest lesson is that you've learned that may help other people in that sense around building a passion-led business, around building a purpose-led business? What would you say your biggest learning is?
I think the biggest learning is not to just say yes to everything. So because when you are passion led and purpose led, you get approached, and through the network I get approached by lots of people, could you do this, could you do that, and everything. So I think my biggest learning would be to be very selective about where I use my energy and whether it will actually align with my objectives, which
Yeah.
I said at the beginning, which were, to make sure that people who have been silenced get a voice, and also people who perhaps haven't had the opportunity to make music and or develop their voices. So I try and use that as a checklist in a way, and think and sit back. So I've been asked to collaborate with a choir on a particular concert, and they want to come to deal and everything. And I was talking to Julie about it, and she was saying, well, is it really what you want to do? Or is it, oh, well, you can do it, but there'll be lots of work and perhaps it doesn't fit those objectives. And actually, I've thought about it since I saw her, and it does fit my objectives for various reasons, but I had to do that. So I think I had to go through that process in my mind and make some notes as well about, well, actually, what is the benefit to my choir, to my people, what's the benefit to Maddie for music, and quite logically work that out. So I think passion is good, but you can end up becoming overwhelmed and doing things that are perhaps not going to get the value for the investment of time.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things I say all of the time, and it's not an Emma saying, I know it's a saying that's out there by lots of other people, but it's one that I love to say is just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I think
Yeah.
that's a really important lesson, isn't it? That we have to learn. And I think you are 100% spot on there in terms of when your business is driven from your passion, from your purpose, your mission, and all of that sort of stuff. It is very easy, isn't it, just to say yes to all of the things because they tick that box in terms of the
Mm.
impact you're looking to have. But actually, it is still a business, isn't it? And you still have to look after yourself and you still have to do the things that are right. So, yeah, completely sitting and reflecting. That's 100% the right way to go forward, isn't it?
And
Um,
also, it might affect the core things you're doing, because going back to the things that you can doesn't mean you should. Um, there are probably 10 things I could do under the Maddie for Music banner, and some I've dipped into and done this and this and that as a one-off project. But I've in preparing for this podcast, really, I was thinking, what are the main things that I do, which is the choir and the care homes and the teaching, and they are the three main areas. And then there'll be additional bits and pieces that come in, and I think if they fit all the objectives and they fit my mission, then I'll take them on. But what you have to be so careful of, I think, in terms of learning from other people listening and starting out or whatever, is not to affect the quality of what you're doing as your main um, roles and main deliverables as such, because I have had times where I've been so busy. Now, a good example is that I was asked to run choirs on cruises, and I've been a couple of times off for 3 weeks. I've had to change everything, and you don't do such a good job for your choir, because they've had to get a cover leader in and prepare them, but they understand and they wanted me to take the opportunity because it was very much a one-off opportunity. But you can easily find yourself being pulled in too many directions, not to have enough time to plan and prepare to do the job properly. So I have to watch that all the time, because I am very much a person that gets excited by the idea of a new project and can overcommit.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm with you on that. I'm exactly the same. Something new and shiny. It's like, oh, excited! I want to do this
Yeah.
thing. I can do this thing. I want to do this thing. But we have to be realistic, don't we, with what we do?
Mm.
And you said something there that again I talk about a lot, which is about you are better focusing on just one thing and doing it really, really, really well than trying to do four, five, six, seven other things. Because you're not going to do them properly, are you?
No,
This
no.
myth of we can multitask and do all of the things, but actually we can't. We've only got so much space in our brains and so many hours in the
In
day.
a day, yeah.
We can only do so much, can't we? As much as we like to tell ourselves we can do it, we can do it all. We can absolutely do it all. So
What
when
I
you,
have done, so I was just going
sorry,
to add to that, but I have to share it because it's so important. What I have done, which enables me to do more, is I have taken on a trainee choir leader, who's working with me, not just on choir leading, but on other projects as well, who's recently given up primary school teaching and had a baby, and she was looking to. She's a good singer, and she's helps with singing in her church. So she was really excited when I said, well, I think I might be, maybe, not do so much of that. She said, oh, I want to help you. Can I help you? Could you train me? So actually, as long as, you have the right sort of delegation and oversight in place, and we regularly speak every day and on making sure that she's got the right support to keep the quality up and do things well with my support. That's a way of growing, which I know we're talking about growing the business, without over committing myself. So it's a balance again, because obviously there's investment of time in helping her get on up to speed. But I found that's a way of taking on more and also helping somebody else in the community develop skills in a different area for them.
Yeah, yeah. And that's an important part of growth, isn't it? Reaching a point where you realize that if you want to grow more, if you want to have more impact, if you want to be able to help and support more people, that actually you can't do it all. And sometimes you've
Yeah,
got to say, right, okay, where are my skills best sat? Where is my time best spent? And what can I do to still be able to do that job? And that's normally when it's a team member, or as you say, somebody to help and support, along with the choirs. That is growth, isn't it? I
mm,
think that is great. But it's actually quite hard to do, isn't it? When it's your business and you've done it for so long, it's actually sometimes quite hard
yeah.
to say, somebody else come and do this little bit for me.
It
So I
is very
love
hard
that.
because there's so much in your head that you haven't written down because it's your own business. So we don't have a process manual for how do you teach a song. But actually, I
Exactly.
do have a complete method. So I've had to start, sharing that knowledge over time and making sure that I don't assume too much that,
Yeah.
of my own knowledge, that she would have the same.
Exactly, exactly. And that's when I help and support a lot of businesses when they reach that point where they've grown and then they're thinking, well, why can't I physically grow anymore? And it's for that exact reason that they haven't got any more headspace, any more time, any more anything else. But actually they've built everything through with a wing and a prayer, string and sellotape, which is how we all build a business. And it's absolutely the way you should build a business, otherwise you'd never get started. But there becomes a point where you've got to start having some of these things like processes and things documented and team members to do bits for you. It's the next level, isn't it, of
Yeah.
growth. So I love that you're doing that for Maddie for Music, which moves me on nicely to I'd like to explore, if that's okay with you, Maddie, I'd like to explore what Maddie for Music looks like. What's the dream? Where are you taking it next?
So sticking with the core, I think, but I'm always coming up with ideas, which, as we were saying, we shouldn't necessarily take every idea forward. And it's definitely all about well-being. We are going to be relaunching the choir, and now that I've given up sort of working full time in a business in my corporate world, I'm able to be more flexible about when we meet. So at the moment we meet on a Friday early evening. Well, that actually puts a cap on the number of people that will join, because it's early evening. Workers typically want to go and eat or pick up their children or whatever, and so we're relaunching it at the beginning of March on a Tuesday evening, which is really scary because many of the people, like I was saying, they're a bit older now. They don't want to come out in the evening, but we're going to also set up a daytime branch. So I feel scared because it's a difficult period and I may lose some people because some people may not be able to make that daytime branch inevitably. And I've been with these people, some of them 13, 14 years. It's like a family to me. So it is scary, but I absolutely know it has to be done to keep Maddie for Music viable going forward and to grow and to be continue to do a good job in the community. So that's the biggest thing really that's happening now for me. And then it'll be continuing to offer workshops, particularly at the moment in Beat the Blues, January and February, we're offering a series of workshops. And so it's doing more of the same, but I particularly thought it was good at this time of year. Those people who perhaps have never been in a choir, haven't sung since school, were told they couldn't sing. It's a small group environment, less daunting than going into an existing choir where everyone knows each other. And so I've got about 8 to 12 people once a week, and we're doing quite gentle songs and things. So, and some rounds and some warm ups. It's not high pressure. It's not high up. It's not really upbeat and disco and all this, which we can be in choir. So and people are appreciating that, where they were a bit tentative. Oh, I don't know if I could sing, or you don't want me, I can't sing. These are the sort of comments I get. So continue with that. Continue to expand the care home pool. That's really cemented in 2025 with the new acts that I was saying that I brought on board, and even now the activities organisers of the various homes having a group of their own, which I'm sort of moderating, saying, I'm thinking, what should I do for Valentine's? And they're actually talking to each other now, not necessarily all the time just about my acts, but about their jobs and the challenges of doing that job in a care home. So I'm not getting involved in those discussions, but I feel that going forward, into the future, that would be something that I'm facilitating and helping those people that are doing those very difficult jobs a network themselves. And then it'll be just continuing to look for good opportunities to do fun things. So we go to festivals, we sing at Trafalgar Square. But in order to continue to do that, I've got to grow the choir because I've got about 20 paid up members at the moment on this Friday evening, and it had dipped a little bit in the last couple of months. People are getting older, people have got relatives that are ill or that have died, or various reasons, as they do. People have dropped off. So I need to rebuild in the next 3 months, and then in the summer sort of think, is this a service that the community really wants? There are a number of choirs in Deal locally, national chains of choirs. And so I need to make sure that they're coming for me, because that's what they say. They come for me, the choir leader, because they like me and what I do and the style of choir that I run. So I need to work hard to make that sustainable in the coming months.
Yeah, yeah. Are you seeing the younger generation showing an interest in choirs and things like that? Is it moving with the times, so to speak?
I'm trying to do that. I keep us very young by doing things that perhaps other choirs of ladies who are in their 70s and 80s wouldn't. But so one of the photographers that I use locally, he calls us the Red Hot Babes or something, the choir babes, which is really nice. He just came up with it because he sees that it is an older group, plus 50, over 50 at least. I don't think anyone's under 50 apart from the lady that I was saying is helping me to just have the baby. Um, so and even I'm not being ageist in that, but I'm just saying, as you said, to keep it moving, we do need to recruit younger people, and they all get that. All the existing members as well. They totally understand why I'm making this change to Tuesday evening. So yes, young people are interested, but they do want to be with people of varied age ranges. So I need to make sure that I do. We do meet at a time when they can easily make it. But I would say from my side, I'm quite a young 62, and everyone tells me I am. So I'm always, going to training courses with 25-year-olds, and I see that as a real priority for me to mix with different ages. So I've joined a choir for my own challenge, which is a different style of singing, a cappella singing. It's auditioned choir, and there are about 10 of us that are probably in my age group, but about 60 who are 20s to 40s and 50s. And I love that because, I've taken a lady along last night, and she's joined, and she's in her 30s. And, we can learn so much from the younger generation, and they can learn from us as well. So I think it's really important to be, intergenerational, to be in that sort of environment. So I'm hoping that I'm like that anyway. My approach has always been keep young and lively and dynamic. I'm hoping that will attract younger people going forward when we meet at a time when they want to come and sing with us.
Amazing, amazing. So it sounds like there's some really exciting things ahead for yourself and, of course, Maddie for music. So we're going to need to start
Yes,
thinking about wrapping up, unfortunately, although we could obviously
of
sit and
course.
chat all day. But before we do, I always ask my guests to share with us a top tip for all of our listeners based on your expertise. So what would your top tip be?
I think my top tip has got to be in planning ahead. So in the music business especially, there's a lot of spontaneity, and it's about improvising, and it's about being creative and expressive. But without planning to do all those things, it's easy to miss deadlines or not do things to a high standard. So because I'm an administrator, in effect is that in the governance world, and there's a lot of administration, a lot of organisation, project management. I am really a stickler for documenting everything that I've got to do, breaking those things down into stages. So, if I'm thinking of this concert that I'm going to be doing with another visiting choir, I've already got a checklist of all the things that we need to think about: the venue, what we're going to sing, the logistics of them coming to Deal. So I think a top tip would be to keep on top of that and look at those things, on a regular basis, daily, if not weekly, as to what you've got coming up. I've got a Sunday afternoon sort of process in my life, where I look at the week ahead and think, oh, is there anything I've missed that I haven't documented that I've got to do? And then breaking those down into smaller steps, because otherwise it feels daunting. But because of what I do, which I'm sure is true in many businesses, is across a number of streams, work streams. I have to really know exactly what I'm doing when, and I have to stick with that. The family can't go to me, oh, are you coming out? And I say, well, this afternoon I've got to do this, and this, because otherwise, if I just, I mean, obviously I can be flexible to some extent, but if I don't honour my own commitments to myself and to my business, then I'll get out of control and we're up very late or getting up very early, which is never very good for me. I won't be at my best when I'm then, working and doing things for other people.
Absolutely love that. It's really important not to break promises to ourselves and commitments that we make, isn't it? I think that
Mm.
it tells us that it's okay to keep doing that if we do. So I absolutely love that tip. Love that tip. So, and then finally, if our listeners, or should I say if, I'm not going to say if, I say when our listeners want to come and learn more about you and Maddie for music, where's the best place for them to come and find you?
Well, I tend to use my Facebook page, Maddie for Music, with the number 4, Maddie, Maddie. And so, my husband came up with that brilliant title for the business. I tend to use the Facebook page and a little bit on Instagram as well. So they can message me there, follow the page. And I should say that although I'm based in East Kent, I'm very mobile. So I was recently at your growth event.
You were?
And I do travel around a lot. I love travel, so overseas as well. The cruise choir. So I'm up for doing a workshop anywhere that sort of fits my passion and my mission. So don't be put off that I appear to be just in the southeast. I love meeting new people and bringing what I can do to different areas of the country.
Amazing, amazing. So thank you so much for joining me. I've absolutely loved our conversation. I hope you've had
Me
fun.
too. Yeah, absolutely. It was really good to talk about myself.
We
Unusual.
don't do that very often, do we? We
No.
don't do that very often. And it's nice to actually just do that bit where you reflect and you think about
Yeah,
what you get out of it as well, because that is important,
that's
isn't
true.
it? That
Mm.
is really, really important. Okay. So thank you to everybody else for listening. We will see you next time.